I'm Joyce Hornady. You might say accuracy is my business. I make bullets.
You are listening to the Hornady Podcast.
Thanks for joining us and enjoy the show.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Hornady Podcast. I'm your host, Seth Swerzik, and today I've got some special guests from not too far away, Kurtis and Sam from Thunder Beast Arms Corps. Guys, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, not much of a trip from Cheyenne, but you come into the factory, and that means the listener gets what they really want, which is Quinlan's Corner.
Oh,
Jayden,
I thought you were going to leave me out.
No.
And crawl under the table and go away.
No, well, you need to be in the corner.
I'm in the corner.
Yep. And the listener does love what you bring to the show, but I'm excited to get into Thunder Beast today. For a lot of us in the precision rifle community, certainly for me, I think for you as well, Thunder Beast was my first introduction to suppressing precision rifles. Now, they do a lot more than precision rifles, of course, which we'll get into, but for me, that was my first indoctrination to a suppressor isn't just a nice to have or something I'd use on a hunting gun or on an AR. It is part of my precision rifle system.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, we've known each other for a pretty long time. I think, Kurtis, you and I going on 15 years, probably pretty close.
Yep.
But we've got to do some really cool technical stuff. You know, I think like the listener of this show really likes the technical info we get to put out sometimes, and we've done some cool technical projects in the past together. And so, yeah, it's cool to maybe be able to talk about some of that
Heck
today.
yeah. I will say the first time I beat Jayden in a precision rifle match, you were running the Thunder Beast.
I was. That's all I have and all I've ever ran.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And
I'm partial.
his technicality, his suppressor was about halfway on.
Yeah,
And I just kept hitting targets, and he just kept missing.
I have a history of things that are supposed to screw together tightly not staying that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have a problem with your left and your right, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, enough about Jayden. Kurtis and Sam, let's get into you guys. I'm going to turn it over to you real quick before we get into Thunder Beast. Kurtis sounds like a Nebraska native. I'd like to hear how you got into the, not precision rifle world, but how you got into the outdoor product space. I always find that interesting because I think there's a lot of similarities between everybody in the industry. This industry is really small.
Yep.
And there have only been a handful of people that got into the industry in a pursuit to make money or something like that. Most of them like found home here because this is what I do anyway.
Right.
And I'm curious to hear your guys' brief story on how you got to Thunder Beast.
Yep. So I grew up in northeast Nebraska in Bloomfield.
Yeah.
My dad has the Yamaha dealership there, so Rogers Yamaha. So I grew up literally turning wrenches like in that shop. You know, small town dealership, 3-4 employees. And then that kind of spurred my interest in engineering. I got a full ride to go to Nebraska. So, you know, Cornhusker through and through.
Right.
Did my undergrad and ended up doing a master's program at the University of Nebraska. A lot of people don't realize, but the biggest shockwave generation facility within the U.S. and our allies is actually at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln.
No kidding.
Yeah, so it's in the basement of the civil engineering lab. And what that is they can generate in a controlled fashion the primary shockwave off of explosions. So like an explosion is 3 parts. You know, it's the fireball, shrapnel, and then that primary shockwave, which is the ripple that you see coming off, you know, really fast.
Mm-hmm.
And that has the most distance, right? So that's really pertinent right now, especially with military personnel being exposed to that multiple times. That can cause long-term effects mentally, health-wise, all that stuff. So when I was in grad school, Nebraska was like the tippy point of the spear for research for mild traumatic brain injury and CTE. We were the experimental side of like a big 15 university group that was funded by the Army and the Navy. And just for reference, like in a controlled experiment that we could do multiple times an hour, we could simulate an explosion of 100 pounds of C4 at 25 feet or anything smaller. So we could kill things with a pressure wave.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it was and that research, you know, kind of opened my eyes to like, wow, this is really interesting. You know, I like this. I also grew up, you know, hunting and fishing, all that stuff. So I knew I kind of wanted to get into like the firearms industry. And Thunder Beast hired me directly out of that lab.
Wow. Talk about,
Excuse me, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Talk about a pipeline.
Yeah, right. So, and actually the guy that I replaced came to Hornady and worked at Hornady for a long time. And he was super smart guy too. You know, he moved back to be closer to family in Iowa to his wife's family. But so I literally went from, turning wrenches, mechanical engineering program, found like a really awesome lab to do grad work in, and then ended up at Thunder Beast. So it was just like a clean line of just a lot of, got really lucky with the right doors opening, and then, everything worked out.
And a lifelong hunter and shooter, which is, that is key information. And Jayden and I, we ran our first PRS adjacent match not far from where he grew up.
The O'Neill one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
it would have been way east of there. Not way east, but it had been east of there. Boy, I can't remember the name of all the towns, but I think we stopped in Bloomfield and used the restroom.
Could have been. We drank a lot of coffee that day.
Yeah. Well, it was foggy. Remember that?
Yeah, I do.
They were driving like 50 miles an hour.
Yeah, it was funny. Like, what was it, 3 years ago? 3 years ago, we went and shot the Pure South Dakota PRS match, and I get out of the truck and instantly start running into people from like northeast Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
And Sam goes, "Do you just know everyone?" I go, "Yeah."
Well, there's nobody there, so everybody knows everybody.
Like
all
everybody
towns,
knows,
Creighton and all those little towns up there.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's like, we're within
Brunswick.
250 miles of where I grew up. Yes, so yes, I that literally everybody knows everybody.
It's awesome. So a pretty direct pipeline, truthfully, from growing up, education formally, and then into Thunder Beast. Sam, what about you?
So I started in 2021. Before that, which is kind of funny, I was in the Army. I was a tanker on the Abrams. So I already had an interest in the long-range shooting quite a bit from that and all the systems that we have to use. And then before that, going to school, kind of trying to figure out stuff. I worked at a rehab facility as a peer support specialist for a while, help guiding people in recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And then in that time, I was really finding the hobby in the long-range shooting. So I was already I run a monthly PRS regional match. I'm actually the Rocky Mountain North regional director for the PRS.
Okay.
So I've been doing that for 3 years, and just so happens the range where I do that is where the engineers and Ray would go out and do their testing. So Ray just approached me man, you should just come work for us.
Yeah, okay.
And I was kind of
about
hesitant.
the door opening up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of how it was. Is I already had a bunch of match experience and knew the long range systems pretty well. So that's how I got the door into Thunder Beast, and now it's been great.
Yeah,
I thought I already knew quite a bit.
Yeah, and then you see the inside.
But I learned so much more after going to T-Bag, just because. I'm learning about precision rifle systems, and I've done all my research and reading and learning and testing, and then going to Thunder Beast, learn a whole other aspect of what kind of goes in the system, what matters, what doesn't. Which is pretty nice.
What do you do specifically for Thunder Beast? Ray comes up, offers you a job to do things and stuff?
Yeah, so at first it was basically just getting my foot in the door. I was shipping and doing QC on cans.
Okay.
Doing that for a bit, and then did the customer service side, and then would help him with demos to where now they call me the head of marketing, which I don't have anyone. I don't have a team like you guys do.
Yeah.
But I handle basically all of our marketing stuff now.
Okay.
Which is pretty awesome. I really enjoy doing that aspect of it. What's funny is I was actually born in McCook, Nebraska. So I think it was within the first year I was born, we moved to Loveland, Colorado. That's where I grew up.
Yep.
But it's kind of funny.
A lot of Nebraska ties here.
Yeah. I've still got quite a bit of family here and whatnot,
Well,
which is kind of fun.
McCook, Nebraska. Talk about a sportsman's paradise. There's public land down there, big mule deer running amok.
Don't tell
all
anybody
kind of
about
upland
that.
game. It's a good place to be.
The mule deer population is 0 in McCook. If anybody's watching this,
That's right.
Well,
do
across
not
the whole
go there
state.
to hunt.
And obviously, that's being facetious, but all jokes aside, there's not a single mule deer population in the country that is, I think, classified as stable.
No, there's not. They're all in a downward trend for sure. Yeah.
So real quick now, shift gears to Thunder Beast as a whole. You guys are, arms of Thunder Beast, but Thunder Beast proper. Brief history on how the heck did that happen? Obviously everybody seems to know Zach, but how'd that get founded and what was the purpose initially?
Yeah, so there's 3 owners to the company. So there's Zach, Ray, and Shane, right? And Shane is kind of the one that people don't really know publicly because he doesn't really like to do the public side of stuff.
Like Jayden.
He's like Jayden, yeah. So you've got, Ray is the sales guy, Zach is the business guy, and Shane was a master machinist in the Navy. He was also triple distinguished, top 100 names in the Navy for when he was in there first year. So the man can shoot.
Yeah.
I've also never seen someone build like a 1911 better by hand than Shane with a file. Like if he needs to take a 1/2 tenth with a file, he can take a 1/2 tenth with a file. It's crazy.
I could take many tenths
Tenths
with
with
a
a
file. Nice one rasp.
Yeah. So like, they were all 3 precision shooters. Shane ended up in Cheyenne for his last station. And then, Zach and Ray were in Northern Colorado. And they all were shooting precision rifle stuff. And they kind of all just met through that, through shooting together. And they all wanted to shoot suppressed, but none of the cans on the market at the time were able to have a 1/2 minute rifle be a 1/2 minute rifle when you put the can on it, right?
Yeah, there's some of that early dogma of like,
Oh,
suppressors are going to negatively affect my accuracy.
And the suppressors back then 100% did, you know, and it wasn't just like, now it's like, okay, well, a few companies, that's not really their focus, so they don't really realize what's happening. Back then it was like, no, any can you put on it's going to hurt your rifle, right?
This is like early 2000s, right?
This is like, 2005, 2006. The company started in 2007. They sold the first cans in 2008. Yeah. And then the weird side of it too is like it was like the perfect trio coming together, right? Because you got Zach, who was really in with that community. He was already on the forums. People already knew who he was really well. You've got Shane, who can make absolutely anything, absolutely anything. And then you've got Ray, who was managing the Jensen's in Loveland, Colorado. It was a really good gun store at the time. And he would call other suppressor companies and be like, hey, can I get, $200,000 worth of cans? And he said their customer service would just be absolutely terrible. And
I'm trying to give you almost $250,000.
Yeah, yeah.
What's
He
the problem
said
here?
it was like he was bothering them, right, to order cans. And then they would come in, and he figured out that the threads weren't cut correctly, right? So he was thread gauging and QCing cans before he would put them to sale. And he was like, man, if we could just make a product that was better, have QC, and have customer service representatives that actually care, like we could do this. We could be successful. So they formed Thunder Beast, and that's the 3, right? Like we want a product that is great out of the box, has the QC and the manufacturing that doesn't have problems. We want customer service that's outstanding, which ours is, and we want a product that works for what we do, which is precision rifle stuff. So those kind of 3 came together, and Thunder Beast is, it's been a ride. I've been there for 13 years, and it's like a never-ending expansion of we need to keep growing.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about kind of the product offerings, but it's not just to talk about the products. There's some manufacturing stuff that most people don't necessarily realize or is even going on. But your early products, from your initial suppressors all the way up into the Ultra line of yesteryear. Gosh, I think you got your Ultra 7 and your Ultra 9 in 2013.
Well, my Ultra 9 is actually a 30P1, which was one of the first generation models.
Yeah.
And you guys record it for me to an Ultra Core, but it's still marked a 30P1, so that predates the Ultras. Yeah.
So we talk about those and what it takes to get those manufactured and the engineering that goes behind them. And then we were talking before recording. When I think Thunder Beast, I think precision first. I think that thing is going to be repeatable, and I'm going to shoot the same small groups that I always do, maybe even better, and it's going to be way more enjoyable. And whether that suppressor's on or off, it's going to shoot the same. That's what my initial thought is. And then I'd like to shift into your modern, here in the last handful of years, you've got some incredibly innovative products with a much different engineering and manufacturing style.
Yeah.
So early on, there's a lot of obstacles because, again, the 2005 era of suppressors it's going to be quiet-ish, but you're not going to shoot as well.
Yeah.
So what were the engineering hurdles and manufacturing hurdles to get those first suppressors off the line to perform like you guys have the reputation of performing?
Yeah. So like when I came in, Shane had figured out what the can, like how to make it, right? He had figured out what the can needed to be at the end, right? And we were putting, hours of tender loving care into every single suppressor core, to get it to that point. And it was every suppressor was in kind of a sense hand built.
Yeah.
And that's when the volume started getting up, that's when they realized like, hey, we need to bring an engineer in. One, we want to make headway because Thunder Beast was great for precision. They weren't necessarily the quietest. They were quiet, but they weren't there, right? So they wanted someone to come in, do the material science, and then also like, hey, how can we ramp this up to like volume production? So that was kind of where I started. Is we've got all these processes that are done by hand. How can we incorporate them and make it to where the machinery is good, or the process in the machine is good, to where maybe we can start pulling back some of that, like hand building aspect.
Yeah, I think you mentioned 1911s. It almost sounds like a semi-custom 1911. The parts are mass-produced, but then somebody by hand is fitting these parts
together. That's exactly
together.
what it was.
Okay.
Exactly what it was.
Which, if you're looking for a really refined product, that's a good way to get it, but it's not the fastest way to get it either.
Yep.
That's funny because it's what we're still hand fitting.
Oh, really?
Baffles.
There are
now.
there are some stuff that we still hand fit, and they are selective on which parts go with which parts. There are parts now on some of the machines that come out, and they're cut in an order, right? So if you've got a 4-foot piece of bar stock, right, the internal stresses in that bar stock are going to be uniform to that bar, right? Or as you progress through, there are going to be stresses that go through, right? But if I take a random bar and cut this part from this bar, and I've got this bar over here, those internal stresses might not be the same.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of our products now
that's
that
some
come
little
out.
stuff, though.
They come
That's
out of
incredible.
the exact same chunk of bar stock, right?
Uh-huh.
And they become a family,
Okay.
right? So like, as you go down the line, those parts are a family. They're tied together. That's together, right? So on those, it's amazing. We don't have to do any hand fit or any like selection or anything on those products where they come out of the same bar stock. But some of the older machines, we don't have the capability of doing that, right? So we still have the parts come off, right? And then they put it together. The end product is exactly the same. It's just amazing to see like, hey, if we cut it this way, it just goes straight into welding. If we cut it here, we kind of sometimes have to like, oh, this one isn't quite right. Let's swap it for this one and then swap the order a little bit just to get it exactly how we want it. And that's mostly the fitment between the different parts. We have a specific kind of press allowance that we want those parts to fit together. And that's kind of what drives, that just makes it easier for us down the line. It's one of those things because the best manufacturing that we have, like are the best manufacturing steps, right? If you have steps 1 through 6, if step 2 validates step 1 and step 3 validates step 2, right? If you back QC as you go, you will instantly find problems in the manufacturing before it becomes an end product.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we've built in. And we've built that into the machines a lot. So like if we take off of, especially like in our, like in the threading machines, when they go in, the machine QCs the can before it threads it. And if it's out of spec, it locks the machine and makes the operator pull that can out of the machine and reinstall it or install a different can. And then it re-QCs it. So we do not get Friday afternoon or Monday morning cans because the machine is determining if it's going to thread or not.
And it doesn't care.
And it does not care. Yep.
That's cool.
So we built a lot of stuff like that into our manufacturing just because it streamlines it. One, it makes us more efficient. And also it drives it to where if I hand an agency 50 cans, they don't have to mix and match the cans to a specific rifle. They can just literally have the cans in a bucket if they want. And when they go out for the day, they can just pick a random can, and their zero is going to be correct.
That part is mind-blowing because you go back not that many years ago, how common was it? You put the can on, you zero the gun. Oh, don't even look at it. There's a carbon seal, and Saturn's blocking Jupiter today, so if that thing is torqued, you can't even touch it. That wasn't that long ago.
No, it wasn't.
And do you guys fight that? Do you still get people calling in about that kind of thing?
Yeah. So since I handled the customer service side quite a bit, the biggest misconception or the thing it's not really out there for information is people think you can go buy a factory rifle from the gun store that says it's threaded and you can just throw a suppressor on. You can, but the mass-produced rifles, like the majority of the time, those threads were not cut concentric.
Right.
So if they go to put a suppressor on, especially one like everything we do is to have like a perfect concentric suppressor. Like I could take 3 different Ultra 7s from like 3 different batches of the last 4 years, and I can throw them on the same gun, And I'm 100% confident the POI, but I've also tested it for myself, that it just goes to the same spot. It doesn't matter if it's a carbon barrel or, a straight taper from batch to batch for like our suppressors, like they're all money. So like if I have a Magnus SRR that I use for like PRS and NRL and it's really dirty, I'm like, well, I need to get another one because I have an event this weekend.
Yeah. That one's dirty. I'm going to throw it away. I'll get it.
Well, like I'm going to let this one get clean and put this, and
Right.
then I'm 100% confident just because of all the processes that we do. But back to those rifles and the threads. So even if those threads are not 100% concentric and it's not hitting a baffle or an end cap or anything, but it's just not going perfectly down the center, a lot of people will be like, well, I put a suppressor on and my accuracy is terrible. It's like, well, 99.9% of the time, it's the muzzle threads, either not being cut concentric or the barrel shoulder.
Yep.
So that's like a huge thing that I've seen on the customer service side, because people will be like, well, it was a half-minute gun before, and now I put the suppressor on, and I want you to test it. So we'll test it, and we'll shoot a tiny little group. Be like, hey, we need your barrel to check it out. And then, of course, the barrel has like, when we're doing run out, which we check run out on every single one of our suppressors, it's like 2,000s, 3,000s, 2,000s. Same with our muzzle threads. I think the most I've ever seen is like 4,000s of run out. And I think our maximum is 15,000s is okay, but I've seen...
It's dependent on the can. So basically we hold 1 thou of run out allowance per inch of length of can.
Okay.
Right?
So 9 inches, 9,000s.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is still really small. And I'm guessing you're about to say a pretty big number on some customer supplied barrel threads.
Yeah, they get up there to 20,000s. I think
Yeah.
15 is like the maximum, but we want to make sure everything's under 15th.
Yeah.
We
You got
always
some-
we always get it under 5, like we're always able to make that work. But I mean, even other companies' cans and threads, like we see them upwards.
Oh, yeah.
Of
You
like
could measure it in
20,000s.
an inch. It's within a 30-second.
Yeah. So, if I were to reach over and pull out one of your mustache hairs,
Yeah.
that is 7,000ths in diameter.
Right.
Just so that people listening to this kind of have a reference of how
Jayden's are
little run.
21,000 thick, though.
Jaden's are pretty thick.
Yeah.
Been on there a while.
Yeah. If I pull out one of these, this is like 1,000ths thick because these guys are pretty thin and hanging on.
I know how you
These
feel.
are 15,000.
But yeah, so back to the QC thing, that's something that nobody else does, right? So every single batch for us, what we do is we go over to a lathe and we cut a spud. And what we call a spud is like if it's a CB mount, we cut the CB mount into a piece of bar stock in that lathe so that mount is 100% true to that chuck. Every single suppressor gets threaded onto that. We put a dial indicator into the aperture, the exit end, and we record that. And we know what that was for every single serial number. And we have that database for every can we've ever
Jeez.
made.
So that kind of explains the run out really
Yep.
well too, because everyone talks about run out, and like there's probably a lot of listeners like, well, what's run out? Well, it's the concentricity of the bore,
Yep.
right? So that's why he's setting up that spud and setting up the suppressor. So we have that spud that's indicated, that's in obviously the chuck correctly, then the suppressor, and then he's putting the indicator and turning it, which is going to tell us like if it has any sort of wobble off of its axis.
Mhm.
Yep. Yeah,
That's-
because what we found over the years is like a baffle strike, you're going to see that right away, right? You're going to see a big shift at 100 yards.
Yep.
But the scarier thing for us, like in our community, is a bullet doesn't have to hit a baffle to be affected by it, right? So like as you're shooting through a bunch of apertures, and that's the whole reason we came out here this week was we wanted to get drag like downrange with your guys' Doppler on a bunch of different can designs to see if we could actually affect it inside the can. Turns out we can. Or we're pretty sure we can.
Yep.
But so as that bullet flies, right, it comes out, it's not stable. It's kind of yawn. It's kind of getting its stability figured out. And if it gets too close to a baffle, even without touching it, the pressure wave itself can actually push that bullet and induce drag, extra drag. So then what happens is, well, the next shot, that bullet might come out slightly different, and that one might not have it. So your drag variability from shot to shot will increase if your can isn't perfectly true.
And for the average shooting stuff at 300, 400, 500 yards, you're not going to see that. But as time of flight increases,
you still will though, because
still
it's
will
not
see it.
just drag variability.
Okay.
So as that bullet comes out of the muzzle, especially within the first couple inches, so think of the average length of a suppressor probably being somewhere between 5 and 8 inches on a rifle can, regardless of manufacturer. That distance from the muzzle the gas velocity that's accelerating that bullet down the barrel is faster than the bullet's traveling.
Right.
So
Significantly faster.
Yeah. So when it uncorks, it
1.6.
comes out of the muzzle. Those gases are moving so much faster, they move out and around the bullet. They envelop it, and the bullet's in a state of reverse flow. Like the gases are moving faster. So what you're saying, Kurtis, is any asymmetric forces you put on a bullet, and in that case, like a can that's tipped in one direction, the concentricity isn't good. So the bullet's going to like skid down the left edge of the baffles, and then there's a big gap on the right side of the bullet. That's going to put asymmetric forces on it. And when you do that, you disturb not only you'll observe the drag difference, but you're also disturbing the angular rate, the wobble pattern of the bullet. So you're going to get a dispersion change at all ranges.
Yep.
And that's one of the reasons, like old cans, we saw that, right? Where we put an old can on and your dispersion went to crap back in the day. It was because you're applying asymmetric forces to that bullet in variable ways, and that's causing your dispersion to increase.
Yeah.
But you also see it in drag, so it's a double-edged thing. The
So you see it at dispersion at all ranges. The effects of the drag variability you'll see downrange with a long time of flight.
Mm-hmm.
But if you got asymmetric flow, whether that's through the suppressor muzzle device or a bare muzzle, if it's asymmetric, it's going to kick the butt of the bullet.
Yeah, and the problem is asymmetric isn't necessarily bad. It's when it's inconsistent. So if it was consistently asymmetric, right? I apply the same amount of force in the same position on the bullet at the same time every time. The bullet's going to respond, but it'll respond the same way every time. So they would all go to the same place. But it's when there's inconsistencies there, which you have. The gas flow rates shot to shot are variable, just like muzzle velocity is.
Mm-hmm.
And so you are getting variation in the forces being applied to the bullet. Yeah.
Fascinating stuff.
Match-proven bullet profiles that shooters love, now perfected by Hornady. Aero Match Bullets, featuring the most popular match bullet profiles and weights from across the industry. Affordable match-winning performance, unrivaled availability, unmatched bullet consistency. Aero Match Bullets from Hornady. Shoot the best.
So to go back to the thread portion, we're talking a lot about concentricity. We talked about this very briefly before recording, and that is I feel like most people who don't know maybe anything about machining or anything about threads don't understand that there are different classifications of thread, and that can be the difference between A, B, C, or whatever. Yep. There is a difference.
Yeah, there are. So there's three basic classes for UN for standard threads. I don't want to get into metric because it's really muddy and
we're in America.
Yeah, this is America.
Yeah.
So I'll speak American, right?
Okay.
So there's 1, 2, and 3 class threads, and they basically start with like 1 is your loosest fit, 2 is a medium fit, 3 is a precision fit, and there's 3 measurements that are relevant in a 60-degree UN thread. You've got your minor, your pitch, and your major. So basically, and then between the male and female threads, you have the clearances. So what those 3 classes are dictating is what the clearance allowance between the pitch, mostly the pitch, on the male and the female threads, like how much allowance, how much slop is there between those. We have historically always threaded at a 3A, 3B. So A and B dictate the internal or external threads. And then within the 3 classes, we internally thread everything to a 3A, 3B spec. There are some cases where, like on the pistol cans, where we deviate and do a 2A, 2B, just because of, one, we don't need that tight tolerance thread spec, and in some cases, actually, a 2 is better than a 3. So, like, especially where we do a lot of tapered interfaces, if you want the taper interface to be the driver, right, the master of the interface and not the threads, then you're better off going to a looser fit thread, so that there's more clearance to allow the threads to move.
Find home,
and then get tight, right?
Yeah, which would be like the theory behind your CB brakes.
Yep, exactly. So because you can get it to where if there isn't enough clearance in those threads as they thread together, they can kind of bind up before that angle surface locates the part, right? So you have to look at each individual case and go, okay, what do I want to be? What's the most important thing here, right? So for us, I want it to hit the taper and I want the taper to locate. So in that case, we'll drop it to a 2 spec.
Yeah. Meanwhile, there's probably some OEM big rifle manufacturers essentially cutting
Yeah, cutting
Class
a
1
1
threads,
or,
which are-
yeah, but even if they would cut a class 1 thread, as long as they're in spec, we can still make it work, right? So the thread spec allowance is pretty wide for us. Like usually, so like on the pitch allowance or the pitch diameter tolerance on a 3B is usually like a 3.5 to 4 thou window. When you go to a 2, it jumps to like a 6 thou window, and then a 1, it jumps to like an 8 thou window, right? So like for us, that's miles.
Yeah. It's 2 sheets of printer paper.
It is.
Yeah, it's very
That's
thin.
miles,
Yeah.
right? So the biggest thing that we fight with manufacturers on barrels is how they're setting up the barrel before they thread. And then the other thing is a lot of them don't put a thread relief behind the shoulder.
I was just about to ask that. How important is the thread relief for, say, direct
It's
thread?
huge because what happens is, like, if you have a square like this, right, and then you've got, a V to cut the thread, well, that V can't get all the way over because you've got this square. You'll crash the tool into the shoulder.
Yep.
So you end up having a long chunk of thread here, or should be thread, that does not get threaded. Well, and then no cutting tool is perfectly sharp, right? And sharp cutting tools break faster. So we all want to use a radius cutting tool because it lasts longer. So then you end up with this big radius here right at that mating shoulder. Well, what can happen is if that radius is too big, when I bring a break over top to mate up, this doesn't actually hit the shoulder, it hits that radius, right? So then that induces it to not be square. So the thread relief is actually the biggest gripe that we have with barrel manufacturers, or the lack of thread relief.
Or they'll cut it straight to the shoulder.
Yep, exactly.
At
so
half 28 diameter.
Yep. So
He made a sound.
It drives me nuts.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that for a minute. Is there merit when to use certain diameters? Because the old standby used to be, what do you want, 750 or 7 1/4 at the muzzle to shoulder up the can.
Yep.
And if you can fit 5/8 do that.
So
if not, whatever.
Whatever thread you have, we basically want the shoulder behind to be 100 thousandths bigger.
Okay.
Right? So if you have, a 5.56 and it's half 28, we want that barrel to be 600 or bigger, right? Because that gives us enough shoulder that we know that if you thread one of our brakes on or our cans on, that it's going to properly locate every single time. And so 5/8, we want 725. If you're in the big 3/4 stuff, we just want like 850 barrel, right? So, and for the comp barrel stuff, now where everyone's going so big.
Uncontoured. Full chongus.
Yeah. Yep. 125.
Well, what do you see happen? So if, let's say you don't have the 100 thou that you want, you have 50 thou, but you have the thread relief, the shoulder is square to the bore, like everything is good there, like it's threaded correctly and all that. What do you see happen when you have to trade off 100 thou of shoulder to 50?
If you're running a direct thread, retention for sure.
Okay. So it's going to come
not a lot of
loose.
surface area there.
Yep.
And
We do have a solution for that. You just have to send us the rifle. So we will do what's basically a muzzle index thread and time a CB break onto that barrel for a customer. But because we want to make sure that it's done correctly and proper, and that it's going to meet our spec, we just want the customer to RMA their rifle to us, and we'll thread it.
And from my side, like, we're not trying to sell a service. We just want to give people we want to set people up for success.
Right.
It's not like, we're only going to say this because we want to make a service. Like, no, we want our guys making suppressors.
Yeah,
like
that
the
service
threading-
is kind of a pain in the butt for you guys. Like,
Threading
you make
is
cans, not like
Threading is just like we offer it as a customer service just because we want people to have a good system.
Yeah. Repeatable, accurate.
So,
Which
so
you guys
that-
are known for.
Exactly. So you get those thin barrels, they actually took our advice, like, okay, I'm going to send you my barreled action. That is a thin profile that already had half by 20 threads. If it has a minimum of 0.565 or 5.62, sometimes our shop foreman it can make it happen. The special CB brake indexes off the crown, so it gives it that thickness, that 100 thou to safely secure, and then their system's good.
Mm-hmm. That's a neat feature. So we've been talking a lot about, obviously, the threads and stuff, and I'm going to call this standard, although all the QC steps that you guys do are certainly not standard, but standards as far as traditional, maybe, suppressor technology. You guys are making the baffles, welding, et cetera, et cetera. Before we transition to maybe 3D printing and some of the other stuff that you guys do, I was not there for this, but I heard tell of this. Ray, one of the owners, was at I don't know if it was a PRS match, maybe a steel challenge or something like that. I can't remember. He was not actively competing, but he did shoot the match, and he took his suppressor off between every stage just to prove a point. And had he been shooting, as the story goes, would have actually placed pretty well.
Yep. Yeah, and that's we still
Confirm validity.
We still do that, right?
Okay.
Like we still will do that with a new suppressor design. So like the Magnus SRR, I made that against the wishes of the owners.
Gone rogue.
I kind of went rogue on that one, just because we had done the 50 project. There was a lot of conversation whether that would still be applicable to a 30 cal, like if we could actually get it to actually work and do it. So I literally made one like on a Friday afternoon, and then Sam and I shot it, trading the can back and forth on Saturday morning at a match. So like it literally was within its first 12 hours of life was in a match setting, getting taken on and off between stages just to verify like, hey, how's the accuracy on this? And the very first stage of that match, I timed out because I was giggling like a little schoolgirl because the recoil impulse was so good.
Yeah.
Right? Like cool. It was like a really cool memory to have, but like to be, on a bag, on a rock and just giggling, right? Because like I saw everything. Like I saw trace, rifle didn't move. This felt like a muzzle brake, but it's suppressed. It's not loud, and like that was the beginning of the Magnus RR series when we modified that stack to be able to accept an RR brake.
That's fantastic. And where I was going with that and bringing up Ray's story, and it sounds like you guys do this regularly, is the repeatability and going back to, there's a carbon seal. Don't touch that suppressor. It's married to it for life, especially if you're going on a hunt or going to a match. Don't even look at it.
Yep.
And the ability to remove it and put it on and shoot the same point of impact with the same accuracy. People, I think, gloss over that kind of stuff today, but you don't have to rewind the clocks very far to where that was not a thing.
Yep.
And that was truly groundbreaking. And just the convenience of being able to take it off and fit it in a rifle case. And now I can go to and fro from the range to my house to whatever, and then put it on when I get there and not have to have some 68-inch rifle case because I've got my suppressor on there. I just take it off and know with full confidence that when it goes back on, I'm hitting where I'm aiming at.
Yep, I still do that. I actually, I've done it at my match or like other matches where I have two different cans. I'll have a Magnus SRR and a full-size Magnus. Obviously, people would want to just test this for themselves. Like, barrels are all different animals, right, depending on how they're affected. But I could switch each can, and it's repeatable. Like, I've checked it. It's not changing even between those two.
Yep.
And I think like the first year I was there, I was like, same thing. I'm like, I'm going to just leave it on there. Like everything is perfect. And I want to perform well here. And then after taking it on and off so much and just watching the POI always be the same, like it built the confidence. Like I don't even think twice about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And of course you end up going to an event and like that fun one in Kansas, the suppressed only one, you'll see a lot of people putting their guns away, leaving the cans. I'm like, why aren't you taking the can off? Everything's perfect. I don't want it to mess up. I'm like, dude, I'll pay you $20 if you take it off and put it on and just go check at the zero board, just so your confidence feels good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll use that to purposely jab industry guys that aren't running Thunder Beast, like friends of mine.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if that was a Thunder Beast can, you could take that off right now.
Like, hey, I think it's loose. You might want to go back to the zero board.
Well, that being able to, potentially switch from suppressor to suppressor is pretty handy, and obviously check your own rifle. I have an 18-inch 22 Creedmoor. Normally run the Ultra 5, put on the Ultra 7. I don't even have to think about it. I mean, that's pretty darn cool.
Yeah, you may there are some barrels because that, like, everyone talks, like, we're talking about on-off repeatability, right? We're not talking about point of impact shift.
Yeah.
Right? So every barrel is going to have
sure.
a point of impact shift, right? If you hang a weight on the end of a barrel, your point of impact is going to change, right? So for us, from 5 to 7, 7 to 9, 9 to Magnus, you're probably not going to see a difference between those cans, but there are some barrels where you will see maybe like a half a tenth or a tenth difference.
Yeah, from personal experience, I have a carbon barrel that has no shift. Like it's maybe half a tenth of a mil, maybe a tenth of a mil, and I have a straight taper where it's like 0.2, which you would think
be the exact opposite.
You would think it would be the opposite.
Yep.
But then I've also had another carbon barrel that had that 0.2, so it's all like I've just, and I could be wrong, but I feel like every barrel is a different animal.
Oh,
Without a doubt.
very
Like-
much like people. You have to find what makes that barrel happy.
Yep. Doesn't matter if it's a straight taper that you feel like is going to be the most rigid thing ever, or a super lightweight barrel or carbon barrel. All of them are different in terms of
the
that.
stresses in each barrel are unique.
Yep.
Let's shift gears then. Let's talk, we've been talking a lot about the old stuff, but then also the ultra line. And then I feel like, I don't know how many years ago it was, but you guys started coming out with some rapid development on several new lines of suppressors. And now, Miles is kind of the poster boy here within the factory, where if you need to see what Thunder Beast has going on, you go to either Jacob or Miles, because they probably got it.
Yep.
So just from a product standpoint, what other hurdles were you trying to jump over? What problems were you trying to fix? And what was the manufacturing process changes within that? Because it certainly sounds like it has changed.
Yeah. So
Start in 2021, right?
yeah, 21. Well, 21 would have been
Gen 2 Ultras.
Yeah, Gen 2 Ultras. So Gen 2 Ultras, Magnus, and all that stuff. So the traditional suppressor design from us was we would take all these baffles, we'd weld them together, right? We would hand fit them into a tube with a press, right? And then press it into that tube. The core would get welded at the thread end, and then we would fit and weld on an exit end. So at about like 2020, 2021, well, the Dominus would have been the very first
That's
tubeless can that we did in 2019. And that one is basically, we take the core, right? And we just cut the baffles a little bit thicker, and we weld them all up. And then we just turn the welds off and make it look pretty.
Dang.
So, right, get rid of that tube fitment.
Yeah, just from a time, material, extra welds.
Right. And we had to do a lot of weld development to go from tube to untubed, just because, the straightness of the can, right? So like anybody who's ever welded anything, the warpage and everything can get away from you, right?
Yeah. Heat.
So heat is an issue. The best thing we ever did was we set a 5-axis laser welder, right? So the stack for us gets put together, pressed together. It goes into a vertical fixture. A door opens up, a table spins. There's another fixture there that the operator can then swap a finished can out for a new one. And then inside of that box, there's a 5-axis laser head with a 3 kilowatt laser. So that comes down, and we have a vision line system that is coaxed with the laser beam itself. And we have an AI script that we tell it where the joint should approximately be. It takes a picture, and then it finds where that joint is, moves itself, and then the operator on a 10x screen zoomed in sees that joint, right? So it's huge. Like you can see the machine lines, and they go, yep, that's correct. They hit the go button. It welds that weld seam, goes to the next one, does the same thing again. And our repeatability on our welding placement went to plus or minus 0.3.
Wow. It's a made up number.
On placement. So 0.0003 of accuracy for where that weld is placed on the weld seam. So that allowed us to really nail down the welding, right? And get really good about controlling the warpage of the can. The laser is so fast. Now, door-to-door time on an Ultra 7 is under 4 minutes. So it cranks.
What's that in light of the Gen 1 cans? Like
The Gen
how
1
were
cans-
those
Manufacturing
welded,
time.
and how long
So
did it take?
those were welded with a
Flux core from Harbor
flux,
Freight.
a flux core 1.1 gigawatt,
Yeah.
right? Flux core capacitor, right? So we had a CNC TIG weld system where we would put the can in, we'd put the weld head on, had the program, it would hit go, and it would CNC TIG weld, TIG fusion.
Okay.
Each of those welds would take 5 minutes.
Wow.
So we went from the time of one weld joint to the entire can in the same amount of time.
Precision is not even in the same universe.
The heat affected zone is tiny, right? The weld is like an ice pick. It's tiny thin, which makes it to where we have less material properties are getting altered within the can, right? We have way less warpage. Now, if we want to put 500 tacks around the outside of the can, which we wouldn't, but if we wanted to, we could with no time given up.
Wow.
So that allowed us to really, really get into the weeds on tack placement, tack orientation, weld placement, how we weld. And what's funny is when we got done with that retrofit to go to the 3K laser, we sent cross sections to Germany, or to the German company in their US base, right? So we just made not suppressor parts, welded them up, did cross sections, sent it to them. They said that our welds are 2 grades above the requirements for medical grade welding.
Whoa.
Which is insane. So what we were calling porosity, they weren't even like, because we're like, hey, there's a micropore right there that's 3 thou in diameter. We need to get rid of that. And they're like, that doesn't even compute with us.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So get your Thunder Beast suppressor, get your medical grade.
Yeah. It's good medicine.
Yep.
It's good medicine.
What's awesome
It
with
is
all
good
that is
medicine.
the strength. Like this is
Yeah, because we don't have the heat affected zone, the material properties on our welds are the same as the billet, right?
Mm.
Which anybody who's welded, the weld always fails first, right? If I tear and physically break apart these welds, they don't break on the weld, they break across it.
Wow.
So that
like
makes
it's one contiguous
it
material
makes it like
structure.
one contiguous material structures, right? Which
Wow.
Like using wood glue.
Yep.
Wood
yeah.
breaks first.
Hey, don't give away our trade
Yeah,
secrets.
yeah,
They got a giant bottle of Type Bond.
Yeah.
but making
Dunk
those
it.
so strong. Like when we did the Magnus, you'd run the Magnus on like a 14.5-inch 300 PRC
If you're into that sort of thing.
if you're into
Who's
it.
not into that sort
But
of thing?
but come fast forward, high pressure ammo is starting to be much more popular.
Sure.
Yep.
And we get tons of people like, well, can it handle 7 back? Like, yeah, you could run that on a 16-inch, no problem. Like, why are you asking us?
Yeah.
Of course it's strong enough, which is really awesome. The whole process, doing this so long ago, already accounting for that, because I can't say for like other manufacturers, like, are they going to be ready for that, or do they have to do more development? Like, the way we did it was like right from the beginning to make it super strong, concentric, so we're here now and it's not affecting.
That's the win-win-win-win, which is you did it right the first time. So not only is it stronger, but it's also better, and it's also faster.
Yeah.
So it's like it was a win in every aspect.
The high-speed 3-in-1 power case trimmer keeps up with your need for speed. Trimming, chamfering, and deburring 25 cases a minute. Built to handle a rush without compromising on precision. The ultimate tool for high-volume loaders. Set trim length quickly with macro adjustments and fine-tune with the Click Adjust micro dial. The high-speed 3-in-1 power case trimmer from Hornady.
The win was, the only negative was the bank account.
I'm sure.
Make more cans.
Yeah. And going back to the 14.5 300 PRC, I've carried a 16-inch 338 Lapua through the woods. It's a really handy rifle.
Yeah.
It really is.
It's a Lapua, so you got that going against
with
you.
some 225 SSTs, that thing is
It'll
like,
kill about anything you want.
It absolutely will, and further away than you would think too. Yep. But anyway, so going back, so that was revamping the that goes back all the way to where we started with the manufacturing process, right? If it's not good enough, if it can be better, right? It's not better enough if it can be best, right? Sort of mentality, and we have that universally through the whole manufacturing process. So if we can increase, if the tolerance is plus or minus 5 thou, but we can hold plus or minus 1, well,
it's going to be plus or minus
let's
1.
make it plus or minus 1, right?
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't you? So a lot of people nowadays have gone to 3D printing suppressor cores because they don't have to do all of the manufacturing headaches that we've, and the teething issues that we've gone through over the last 15 years, right? Welding titanium is difficult. And it's difficult.
Yeah, titanium's kind of difficult material as a whole.
Yes, and for us, that's our bread and butter, right?
Yeah.
That's 95% of the material that we cut is titanium. We go through an astronomical amount of it, and it's the easy button now to do 3D printing. And one of the big things that people say is like, "Well, I want a 3D printing can because it doesn't have any welds." Well, that's not true, because the entire thing is welded, right?
Yeah.
You're trading 10 weld seams for 2,000 weld seams, because what's happening in that 3D printer is you've got a bed that starts, a sieve comes and pulls material across it that's powder granulated, and you have the same laser welder that we're using to weld the cans, the same type of laser, just laser welding that powder onto the solid bed. And then it goes down and it sieves it across again, and it does another layer. And it's doing that, on 90 micron layers or 100 micron, right? So every 3,000ths, it's dropping down, and it's doing that over and over again. So that's how 3D printed cans are built.
And there's probably a place for that.
There is, like with the Spiro line, right? The Spiro that we released this year, that's our first 3D printed can. And it was another one of those where we kind of got drug into it. We really didn't want to do an AR can, right? But we have so many tier 1 assets, so many units that run our bolt gun cans on their sniper rifles, and they keep coming to us and they say, hey, you guys are the only suppressor manufacturer that we trust. You're the only suppressors that we don't have issues with. We don't have failures with you guys. Will you please, for the love of God, just do an AR can, right? Like literally that's what the phone call was. And like when those guys start calling your cell phone number, right? It's hard to tell them no.
Sure.
Right.
Well, especially when you build the relationship. I mean, Jayden knows this firsthand at Hornady. I'm sure we have a lot of specialized customers that are the same customer.
Yep.
And when you start to build relationships with them, I've mentioned it on the show, but within that small community, how it used to work was, here's our problem. Here's how we want you to fix it. Now go fix it. And that can work, and then you end up with some products that are just slightly disjointed, or they just slightly miss the mark for commercial success because you told us what you wanted, and then you start to build the relationship, and they start to trust you. And now they say, here's our problem. Can you find the best possible way
can you
to
get
fix
us the
this?
solution? Yep.
And then that's how you end up with really refined, well thought out products.
Yep. So we knew at the beginning of the Spiro that we were going to have to go 3D printed, mostly just because I've machined Inconel in the past, and I don't want to machine Inconel,
Ever again.
It is terrible, right? Like the same baffle in titanium that takes us 4 minutes to cut. If I cut that in Inconel, it takes 30 minutes.
Wow.
And I go from 100 parts per insert to 2 parts per insert. And you want to make an operator want to quit and walk out the door, make them cut Inconel baffles, right? Like because it absolutely is terrible. So we knew we had to do 3D printing, and as soon as we opened up that door, it gave us so much that we could play with geometry-wise.
Baffle design.
Yeah, traditional machining just can't do that.
It can't, right? It can't. So what we did when we started, so the engineering at Thunder Beast, or the development, is myself and another engineer his name is Sutherland. And I would wager that the two of us together are, without a doubt, the best in the industry, just based on what products are available. So when him and I started drawing up and designing 3D printed cores, we knew what would work kind of from the start. And it didn't take us that long to have something that absolutely was better than anything in the industry. And then we did like 3 or 4 more iterations of it. So what a lot of people don't realize is the low back pressure cans, if you start shooting them, one, traditionally they're loud, right? Because they're not trapping the gas, they're letting it go.
Yep. Which is kind of, from the shooter perspective, like, I don't like getting, spit in my face.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep,
so
exactly.
The low back pressure is nice in that regard.
Yep, for sure. So, and what we saw when we started really laying into these cans and shooting them a lot is we'd start calling it, they'd choke out, right? So like the first 5 shots are low back pressure, but then
you fill it up.
They start clogging up. And not only do they clog up with carbon, but they'll clog up with gas.
Yeah.
Right?
Toxic gas, right?
So the features inside that were making them low back pressure were so small that the gas couldn't clear before the next round of gas came. So when that happened, now it's no longer a low back pressure can. It's just a loud traditional can. So now the toxicity's back in your face, and you're shooting a loud can.
And your system's not working.
Well, that's lose, lose, lose.
Exactly.
Let's not do that.
So we bought, all of the low back pressure cans that we could think of that were relevant, and a few other ones that weren't. And we just went out and we shot them. We went, none of these work. These are the things that we don't like. These are the things that we're not going to allow our can to do. So in the Spiro, one, it's quiet, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you shoot a Dominus and you have a Dominus, the Spiro is quieter than the Dominus, and it's low back pressure. So it suppresses and it's low back pressure. All of the channels in there are big enough to where they're not going to choke out. We can do a 8 mag surge cycle, and the 8th mag has the same low back pressure characteristics as the first mag does.
Nice.
Just everything is super, super hot. And then also we want it to be able to cleanable, right? So like suppressors carbon up, you put 10,000 rounds through a can and it's got a lot of carbon in it. So all of the channels and stuff are designed in a way to where when you clean it with CLR, the CLR can get to the carbon and get it cleaned out so you can get your can back to nominal weight.
Yeah.
And then internally, the geometries are really cool. I wish I could have a cross section here to go through all of that, because A lot of other people will take gas flows and let them collide back with each other. We chose a different route. So we chose to create 7 different gas paths within the suppressor and have them never recombine. So then we have complete control over those 7 different paths and how they exit the can. So we released the Spiro, super well
received.
Well received, right?
Yep.
It's 3D printed. It's Haynes.
Can't make enough of them.
Can't make enough of them. And now we have the Spiro direct threaded hub. We have the Spiro 6mm. When you release this, hopefully the Spiro SR is available. If you're listening to this and the Spiro SR is not available, it will be available very soon. And then obviously we're working on 30 cal Spiro, which we shot 30 cal Spiro prototypes to get Doppler stuff because because we have so much allowance on what we can do for internal geometries, we are starting to be concerned that we could alter the bullet, which we did.
Yes. Which I was excited to see because, I mean, that's not just a test of the can. Like we're, from our perspective, we're gaining an understanding because this 3D printing thing, right? Like it's become a recent craze. The cool part is what it can do manufacturing wise that you couldn't do with traditional tooling. And that's mainly around how you can grab those high pressure gases, high velocity gases coming out of the bullet uncorking from the muzzle and where you put those. And where you put them is important for sound. Like you were saying, a lot of manufacturers will try to crash those
Think of it like a wave, like
those
water
vectors
wave.
together. Yeah.
Yep. They'll try the gas flows, right? They'll separate them out and then they'll try and redirect them to hit each other.
Because that helps with suppression.
Yeah, it does. It sucks a lot of energy out of that gas.
Yeah. The problem is that now that 3D printing as a manufacturing process has allowed for so much control over the gases that are inside the can. We just talked earlier about any asymmetric forces applied to the bullet. As a bullet manufacturer, each bullet responds to that differently.
Sure.
Where you apply a force in relation to the center of gravity and the center of pressure and all of the aerodynamic, like pitching moment coefficient characteristics of that bullet at that Montgomery, the response of the bullet is unique. And so you might have a can design that works really good with one bullet and really poor with another bullet based on where it's venting those gases simply because of that bullet design. So this testing we've done this week has helped us on both ends. You guys get an understanding of how does this affect the overall performance based on the can's design, but we get to see, this specific bullet design is more prone to X, Y, and Z than this other one.
So I'm sure that'll be an argument as people are like, well, that bullet's long out of the suppressor before anything's affected. Well, that's why we're here, is that data is going to show that. Like, I know in theory people think that, and there'll probably be someone in the industry that'll argue it, but it's being affected, and we can see the data on the Doppler that it is an actual thing.
And it's easy to see, like, if you've never seen this before, pause the podcast, go to YouTube, look up high-speed video footage of a bullet exiting a muzzle, right? Mm-hmm. You touched on it earlier. When that bullet uncorks, the pressure behind actually engulfs that bullet. And you can do the math, right? You can math out the math, and that whatever your bullet velocity is, the gas velocity coming out behind it is 1.6 times the bullet velocity. It works out really cleanly. That's approximately what it is. So it is 100% within the realm of possibility within a suppressor for the gas to expand around that bullet, get to a different chamber, and then get to that bullet path before the bullet exits the can.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is this doing
it absolutely
4,000
is.
feet per second or something
exactly.
like that?
Yep.
I hear people understanding it. Everyone has different theories in the industry, but that's one that I see every now and then. So it's important. I mean, that's why we're here. We're showing that is a thing.
And the only reason that we started this conversation is because we're so in tune with the precision of all of our systems. As we were sound testing this, I noticed it hitting the trap, like where on the trap it was hitting. And then Sam went out and shot it, and he's like, well, I don't know. It seemed okay on his 308 that he shot it on, but we were doing the sound testing on a 16-inch. So it's going to become, like
totally
we were talking
different.
about.
The gas pressures
totally
are higher.
different.
The gas velocities are higher.
Yep. The timing is different. The bullet is different. Like, it's going to be, you have the potential now when you buy a suppressor where you could be fine, but if the internal geometries of that can are not designed properly by a company that, pursues this to completely destroy the accuracy of your system.
Yeah.
Like he made 3 working on the 30 cal Spiro. He gave me 3 to go test. and do my own thing, which is not going to be nearly as good as the Doppler. But I figured shooting 308 at like 800 under good conditions, seeing BC variation.
Yeah, that's right at the long edge of what most 308s, with some traditional bullet shapes, that really is.
And he suspected one, like, hey, there's one in there. I'm like, don't tell me what it is because I don't want it to skew, would shoot accuracy to 100 in there. And of course, one outlier that he felt like was going to be affecting that. I didn't know which one, but it gave him the data that he needed.
Yeah, and then I called you right after that, and you got really excited.
Well, yeah. So he's like, hey, so we did this and this and this. Is it possible for this to happen? And it was like it's something that I've wanted to do for a really long time, but it never gets bumped up high enough on the priority list to go do it, right? Because the conclusion of it is really cool, but it's not really going to affect like what we do. It affects what you do for sure, right? So when you called me with that question, I was like, oh, absolutely. Tell me more.
It's fascinating to have a suppressor company do this much research, especially today. And I'm not trying to throw shade at anybody's company, but within the last 18 months, maybe 2 years, but certainly within the last 18 months, the amount of XYZ brand who has nothing to do with muzzle devices as a whole, or maybe they do, maybe they don't, but now they have a suppressor line. It's like, and maybe they're great, I don't know, but it just feels like with the cost of what a lot of these suppressors are going for and the speed at which they brought them to market, like there's no possible way that you guys did this much research, like what you guys are doing. And that proof in the pudding is where, the rubber meets the road. And my first experience with the Spiro was Jacob's. Jacob downstairs.
Yep.
You probably shot his 16 or his 6 arc. That thing, we had it on the podcast, did a whole deep dive on just that build. One of the more like capable do-all rifles that you're going to build in an AR platform. I mean, it's perfect barrel length, appreciable velocity to do almost anything you'd want to do, from long-range shooting to a gas gun match to hunting. And then he's got the 6mm can on there, and that thing is everything you said it is quiet. And as far as shooter experience goes, there's nothing coming back at you.
Yep.
It is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And you don't land there on accident.
Yeah, like you said, there's a bunch of new companies out, right? And probably there could be some that are great.
Right.
But we have so many years of R&D and testing and experience to refine a really good product. And we're still doing that now, which really sets us apart. And then, I mean, on the other, I'm not saying you have to do it, but I mean, I'm shooting, 12 to 15 NRL, PRS, ELR matches a year. He's doing the same.
Yeah.
And when we're doing that, I'm always
testing everything.
Well, yeah. So so there's aftermarket brakes for our suppressors now, right? So that's cool and awesome that people want to use like our product for that. But I'll go shoot a 2-day match because I want to get the full experience. Like, why are they using this? Like, I want to figure out why. Like, what is the performance I'm perceiving and like how I actually feel about it.
Yeah.
Same thing with like we shot an ELR match a year or two ago, shooting 375 Swiss P, and I basically had a rifle given to me, and I had like an hour and a half. Like, hey, go get dope for this and get ready to shoot for the weekend. And I was basically adjusting the BC after every stage.
Every single stage.
But we're always like you said in the beginning of how like we kind of got in the industry. I really feel like this is just where I really fit in because I really enjoy everything I do. Mm-hmm. So even if I wasn't at Thunder Beast, I'm still going to be testing, Bullet X and doing low data and going to a match anyway. But it just makes me like comfortable in my job because this is what I really like to do.
Yep.
So we're not doing it because it's our job. Like we enjoy, like, how can we make this perform better? Like, why is everyone choosing this?
It's the same thing we do. And I'm sure you guys get it. Like, I think folks or the customer really appreciates seeing Sam at the match and Sam being known not only within the industry, but by the customer. Like the customer knows the guy, or Kurtis, right?
Yep.
Like, we get the same thing, and people come up and tell us
Jayden can't go to the grocery store.
That's not true. Well, I don't for other reasons.
Yeah, right. It's the notoriety.
But that's a really cool part of it, right? And when it's your passion, it shows. You guys have that same.
Yep.
It parallels Hornady to a T, that the people that are influential within our company are doing it because they love it. And the products that we're developing here are products for us to use And then we can also sell them. That's
exactly,
great.
exactly right.
But you guys are doing the same thing.
Exactly right.
There's thousands of other us's out there. They just have different names. You know?
Yep.
Yeah, and that kind of leads us, so on the side, me and him got together. So we have so many different rifle platforms for work. I have the match I host, so I have loaner rifles for that. I've got my personal rifles, which I love trying all the different calibers and everything in different, PRS, NRO Hunter, ELR. You have a bunch of different complete rifle setups for that. And then testing rifles for work or demo or training law enforcement. So me and him developed an app called Barrel Burner, because tracking the round count of all those when we're busy all the time,
That's a nightmare.
It's easy when you have a rifle.
Well,
Exactly.
and there's nothing worse than showing up to a 2-day match and like round 75 of day 1, you're just like, this barrel's dead.
Yeah.
or the biggest thing is like
depressing.
There's nothing
there.
worse than like, well, I just threw away this match.
Yeah.
Like
there goes
this
a couple
thing,
$100.
well, like I have like for my PRS match guns or the NRL one, it's like 350 to 400 rounds is when I like to clean them.
Yeah.
It could
Which is
probably
it's like changing oil. Just pick a number and then just do
stick to
that
it.
number. Yeah.
So I had like two days back to back, but I did some practice during the week, and I remember getting to a 2-day and like had a really wicked carbon ring. So I'm like, man, if I was tracking this better, it just like, you're busy, I have kids, like paying attention to all this or plan for barrels or when to clean stuff or when I need components just came really daunting. Even our suppressors. So like
Those need service too.
Exactly. So like the ultras, a good cleaning regimen is once they get about 1 ounce of carbon, which is cartridge dependent. So like on the ultras, shooting like 308 or 6.5 is like 1,000 rounds. On the Magnus, that's like 500 to 600. So if I'm using that same suppressor for two days, there's 400 to 500 rounds. I got to plan for the cleaning.
Mm-hmm.
So we developed an app that just individually tracks as much as you want or as little as you want. I use it as kind of I have all the serial numbers of my impact actions. I have the scope and the trigger, which the scope doesn't really matter unless it's kind of nice to know, like for running, we run a lot of zero compromise, and we had it on our demo 50 cal. So it was getting like 5,000 rounds. So if something were to happen, like it was too much force for that, or any manufacturer, you can just look up and be like, or this trigger, like, yep, this has exactly 3,500 rounds on it. It's hang firing or whatever. Like this just gives you that option.
Yeah, it's nice to know. It's some of that data. It's like you don't know.
Yep. Well, and then you can go in and put alerts, right? Like
you were showing me that.
You can say, hey, like, I need to clean this barrel every so many rounds, or like, hey, when I get down to it, because it does the whole ammo tracking too, right? So like if you put all of your ammo components in there, like I've done it, everybody's done it. Like you put your hand in the box of primers and the box is empty and you didn't realize it.
Yeah.
And you thought you had more.
And the store is closed.
And it's 10:30 at night before a 2-day match.
Nobody
We've
ever
all
loads
done that.
ammo the night before match.
No, ever. We're all super prepared.
Yeah, right.
We don't all have the ability to go into Hornady and just be like, I didn't feel like reloading last night. Just like sweep it into
Yeah,
a guy. So it also keeps track of all of your component, and then you can put alerts on it when it gets below a certain inventory. Like, and the example I like to use for people is like, if I have 100 of my hunting bullet, like if I have 100 of the 160 CXs for 7 mag that I hunt with, I'm perfectly happy, right? Because I'm going to shoot 10 to 15 of those a year. If I have 100 match bullets on the shelf, I'm in trouble.
Right.
Yep.
So having that ability to have the app be super flexible and have it morph to whatever the shooter needs is what we wanted. The other side of it is, you can fully back up everything to a server that we have. So like if you nuke your phone, all of your stuff is in a server controlled. But at the same time, because, he was the idea guy and I was the guy who coded everything, we're not taking anybody's data and selling it.
You were talking to me about that yesterday.
Yeah.
Like I'm ignorant in so many ways about the world today, and that scared me.
I
honestly
had no
idea
idea about this until I started developing the app. But there are so many app developers out there, and like they're full companies where they just have templates of apps, and they will just like morph it to whatever and just try to launch it and launch as many as they can. And their whole goal is to get you to download it and accept their terms and conditions, because within that it will say you are allowing us to pull your personal information that's available on your phone out and own it. So they're pulling your information and they're just mining it, right? They're just trying to get your phone number, email address, whatever. And that's where spam calls get all of their contacts them from.
Sell that stuff.
And they just sell it off, right? So if you're not paying for an app, like they're making their money somehow, right? Like, and the exception is like your guys' app. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
You guys have that app to support a physical product that the customer's buying, right?
Yeah.
That's a completely different world. But if it's an app developer and they're just doing apps, they're getting their money somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like we have a couple tiers. Like there's a free version, so people can make one profile and like
See how it works.
fully use it, because we needed it for ourselves. We just wanted. There's nothing else out there. And same thing. I had no idea about the
Data mining.
exactly.
It's scary, man.
Yeah.
So we had the app released. I don't know, like 6 months. We actually just come up on a year in June or
July.
in July.
Yep.
And started to see a couple like knockoffs. I'm like, what is going, like, it's kind of upsetting. There's no patents or anything, like when it comes to apps, nothing we can do.
Right.
But I like started to look into it more. And of course, looking at the developer just works for a company that sells data. So what's really nice, kind of how like Thunderbeast started, is like, we didn't pay a third party to do this. He did all the coding. I did all like website, like admin side. We just kind of worked together. So we have full control of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like a safe place. Like, hey, you can put your info on here. Like, we don't care about your data, but it's secure. You know, everything's encrypted, and we want a safe place, because everyone, that was the whole thing, is I had a whiteboard of like where I would mark my round counter barrels. And then I have kids. So I drop all my gear and like, you need to come upstairs. You know, both twins just pooped out of their diapers. I was like, okay.
Thumbs up. Yeah. I've actually got a thing. I got to go for a,
And then totally forget to update that. A couple days go by, like, well, did I update that or did I not? It looks like I did. So it's just like, it's on everyone's phone. So if they remember, they can do it. And then we just added to where it timestamps your last entry. Which
that's a good one.
It took a while to develop, just because the coding is hard to do that. So now it has the timestamp, so you don't double dip. And also, if you look at something like, man, I haven't shot this for a while, and I got this for X purpose, like, why haven't I been doing it? Or since I train a lot of law enforcement, and they all have, like, all of them are different, but how meticulous they are, like, on their book at keeping track, like, that's cool and everything, but if you guys use this, it'll be easier. But also, like, if you're a commander, you'd be like, hey, let me check your app. Were you training like you said you were? Are you keeping maintenance up?
Yeah.
And it just turns into like a really good accountability app too for some.
Yeah. And that's called Barrel Burner.
Barrel Burner, yep.
Hornady Security Mobilus Safes. Discover the ultimate solution for safeguarding your valuable equipment with Hornady Security Mobilus Safes. Offering an innovative modular design, Mobilus Safes can be easily transported and assembled piece by piece in any room. Featuring a full square lock interior organizing system that maximizes storage space with countless storage configurations. Elevate your security with Mobilus Safes from Hornady Security.
And we have a whole bunch of other feedback. You know, the other beauty of it being us and us being shooters is we get somebody to email and say, hey, can I get this feature? And it's like, oh, yeah, that's good. I kind of want that too, right? Like, you know, the next thing that I'm working on is to have a calendar reminder for like red dots. Right, because like
battery changes,
battery change. Because like for me, I change the batteries on all of my red dots the first of the year, and that's a a Ray thing. You know, like Ray beats that into people, right?
Yeah.
First of the year, change all the batteries on all of your red dots, then you're good for the year. If you buy the correct red dots, if you buy them that last.
Yeah. Well, can you imagine, like, say you got one on, a concealed carry situation, and you carry that handgun for a decade. You know what? Every day, and then the one time, and the chances of you actually needing it are right next to zero, but the one time you do need it, red dot doesn't work.
That would be terrible.
That would be,
right?
Oh my gosh.
So,
well, we're big fans of that app because, frankly, like from an ammo problem, right? Something is wrong. Probably the number one issue we deal with is lack of cleaning and maintenance on firearms. Yes.
Never.
To the point where Seth and I did a podcast a long time ago where I brought 8 pounds of powder in here and I poured it on this table to like show people like
big mound.
This is how many 223s? This is how much powder you burned in that. But we went through a bunch of different cartridges to give people like something tangible to understand. Like, you do need to clean your barrel.
You can't squeeze that much propellant out of this many rounds through a hole smaller than a number 2 pencil.
Yeah.
And not expect.
I think it's like, I don't want to say generation, but there's like generations of shooters.
Yeah.
Right? Like the current generation, I think, is much more keen on the barrel maintenance and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
the previous generation of shooter, which I would put like Ray into. Like Ray is one of my favorite people, and like he is absolutely one of the best people you could ever work for in your life. Like he is just an amazing person. All three owners are absolutely amazing people.
It's because he's leading up to something.
Yep. Yeah. Here comes the slap, right? Giving him the sugar. Ray does not maintain systems. He is I shoot it until it breaks, and then I go, this is broken, I'm going to fix it. So like he's gearing up for a demo on Friday with a police agency, and I was like, Ray, you should bring the gray AI in so I can clean it. And he goes, it's probably fine. I'm like, Ray, I know I've shot 400 rounds through that, just messing around with development cans. And how many of you shot through it? He says, probably 1,000. And then he's paused. Maybe 2,000. It might be more than that. So he brings it up. I scrubbed CLR in that thing for 15 minutes before I finally found metal.
Wow.
You know, like it probably had 3,000 rounds of 308 of not slow fire.
Yeah.
You know, over the last 6 months. So like it's easy to get away from it.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Well, especially like, I think one of the big arguments is, well, I've never had a problem, and that's cool because you can almost do anything you want with a 308 and get away with it. You run a hot rod 6 or hot rod anything, 7 PRC, any of these hot rod 6s, the Creedmoors and all those. Yeah, like that's a lot of high performance in a really small hole. Yep. And you know, maybe you can't chamber the next round as that carbon ring gets built up. And then you get all of the other fun stuff that goes along with it. And one of the things that we all experience, if you have a factory rifle, generally you find out about that stuff pretty early, right? Like you'll know about it. You can see it. You can feel it. You have these custom actions. Everything is fiddle string tight. The difference between everything's awesome and this isn't even functioning anymore. Yep. That the gray area is very small, if not there at all. Like the difference between, I'm running this load. I know it's high pressure. We hear this a lot of matches, but there's no signs of pressure, so I'm good to go. Well, the difference between no signs of pressure and blowing the primer out and breaking an ejector or something.
It's only a couple thousand PSI probably.
Well, and it's
an unidentifiable line from your perspective.
Because you can't see it. Yep. There's no cratering. There's no case head wipes. There's none of that. And now I have a broken part of my bolt. Yeah. It's
so you mean when load development, like people don't do load development the way I do it, where I actually purposely go up until I find pressure signs and I find the limit for a given cartridge chamber barrel, and then I come back down?
No, they just stay there.
Yeah. They just stay there.
Running alpha brass doesn't matter.
I do that with alpha brass too. Like that's how I do it, just because I know the conditions change, right? If it's raining, I want some fudge factor in my ammo. Of
course.
Right? So I always load up and I find where that pressure is, and then I come back down.
Yeah. Well, there's generations of shooters. Like
so we mentioned the cleaning, like when your suppressors, like we already talked about, is super important to clean. So anyone that has shot suppressed a lot, like that is going to be building up a lot of carbon. So when you're holding your rifle vertical, getting ready, whether you're going to the range or whatever, in some way or shape or form, like it gets held vertical. So I don't know if anyone has had carbon come back down into the bolt face, and then you go to chamber it, like, why is it not chambering? You blame the ammo immediately, and people are like not knowing what's going on. And then sure enough, just a little piece of carbon can get in the chamber, cause a pressure issue, or get on the bolt face, and you already kind of jammed it, so it's like packed in there. So you think like something's already wrong with the system, when if you just did regular maintenance on your suppressor and got that carbon out, it's going to eliminate that stuff from happening.
Yes.
And then thinking of suppressors, like thinking of cleaning your rifle and barrel is one thing. A lot of people don't think about cleaning their suppressors. Even I forget this should be fine. But that's simply why we made that app, is just to prevent these things that we've just encountered in the field from happening.
Yep. Yeah. And I would say Sam does a lot of the testing. Like we'll give stuff to him to because we know he's purposely going to try and break it. Like when you shoot so much, you'll find the 1 in a million shots, or the 1 in a million things. But to a testament to Sam and Thunderbeast, when we get those hey, you only see this once every 15,000 or once every 40,000 rounds, we still go after those things, right? So the carbon thing, right? You don't see that unless you're shooting thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds through a system. But now that we know that, now it's hey, it's it's a 1 in a million thing, or it happened once, it will happen again.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
So that having that right mentality of okay, this happened. Let's investigate, see if we can figure out why it happened. Now can we replicate it, and what's the fix to it? You know, and the problem is like the carbon coming down, there's not a whole lot we can do except for tell people to maintain your stuff.
Right.
Yeah, which is barking up the wrong tree.
It is.
I mean, same thing with, so the suppressors have changed a lot. There's brakes on the end of them now.
Mhm.
Give you good suppression, give you good recoil reduction. And there's all different types and kinds. But when it comes to like how we've talked about concentricity and checking run out, well, that piece, unlike all our traditional cans that are fully welded, 100% concentric, you have something that's threading and timing on the end of there. How we designed ours with this taper, like it goes the same, but however, if you like pop it off to retime it, there's carbon built up in there.
Sure there is.
And you need to clean it. And like if it doesn't like seat perfectly, for one, it will come loose. Two, we tested this just due to the design. It's like, even if you change the ports from 3 and 9 to 12 and 6, it's not changing your POI just due to the design.
Yeah, it's harmonically stable.
Okay.
Yep.
But all these other ones, they, like a timed brake, they thread in and out, and then you're tightening a jam nut on it, and you're shooting it a bunch, and it indexes on a different point, so it builds up all this weird carbon. So they either get carbon locked, or they have to retime it, and it's adjusting that brake in or out, which I know you guys have done barrel harmonic stuff, but like just retiming the brake, I've seen some POI shift.
Yeah, because you're changing the way you're peeling those high pressure, high velocity gases off. If you change that, you can change the forces acting on the bullet.
And
I think it also comes down to you're actually changing the preload stress within the system.
Yeah, at the muzzle?
Yeah, I think,
for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's what we see, like, you know, we put a lot of time into the RR brake. You know, like, if I take this off and put it back on, the same mentality of, like, Ray back in the day doing that. We did the same thing with our RR brake, right? Because we're like, hey, this will come loose. They need
What
to
happens
know
if?
that they can tighten it back down, not worry about orientation, and have the zero be the same.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're seeing with these aftermarket brakes, what Sam's saying is, they're not doing the same thing because they're not using the interface that we engineered into the can. They're just butting up against. So if it comes loose, right, and you tighten it back down, you better go check your zero, right? That they're a higher performing brake than what we have. They're going to give you more recoil reduction without a doubt. They're going to be louder. You're going to give up sound suppression, right?
There's a
That's
trade-off.
the trade-off.
Yep.
But just be wary that if you use those and they come loose, go check your zero.
Yeah, just how it, and that's just from my same thing. Like when we did the RR, the way it times, it's not on like a jam nut, right? It's on tapers and a circlip. And I had to make him redesign our circlip because I over torqued it and bent it.
Oops.
He had to redesign it so many times. We were getting so close to release. And he's like, I need you to tighten this as tight as you can 45 times and, you know, try to purposely break it. Because he got so frustrated because I would fold the circlip.
Yeah.
And
It's funny, like the first time he breaks something, he comes walking into the engineering office and he's just like puffed up, like with a grin. Like you can tell he's like, I broke it, you know? And then like the second and third time, he's just like, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Hey, you got to have that guy in the R&D circle.
Yeah.
You do.
You do. You have to break it, right?
Of
You know?
course.
And I can say
Nobody
that
else
without
is.
a doubt, no one is going to treat Thunder Beast suppressors as harshly as Thunder Beast treats our suppressors, right? Like when we go to do a test matrix for like longevity and life cycle, we have rifle manufacturers send us rifles because we are harder on the systems than what they do. They go, I don't know if our rifle will survive that. Well, can we send you a gun, right? Tell us what breaks, right? Like Ray and I, for like the 2 years, and Sutherland, like the three of us, had more rounds on an AX ELR than anyone else in the entire world. We were like 1, 2, and 3 for how many rounds we had put through one of those systems. Yeah. And we actually sent the first action back to England because they wanted to see because we did like what they defined as life cycle multiple times.
Multiple life cycles.
Multiple life cycles on the same action, right?
Yeah.
And not easy either, right?
Yeah.
So like on the 50 can, the endurance cycle, I would run 10 rounds on a bolt action in under 15 seconds on 50. And then we would quench the system and repeat. Jesus. So, and we did that for 4,000 rounds for 3 cans. And we would do.
I don't know how you can still like function.
That suppressor's fantastic.
Yeah.
Right? It is. And we put it in a pintle mount, right? Like we put it in an M2 pintle.
Yeah, I've
right?
shot that. Yeah.
Yep, you shot that mount. So, and you know, we would do 500-600 round days on 50.
Yeah. Well, that's a testament to the product because you couldn't do that without a really good suppressor.
Yeah.
You couldn't do it.
You know, the good thing is like Sutherland and I both have a really high IQ. So if we lose a couple IQ points, it's
Sam disagrees.
Yeah.
It's room temperature.
Yeah. That's all fascinating stuff, guys. What's one thing, if you had to summarize, for the listener, what Thunder Beast has done for the shooting sports and what you guys are doing in the future? Is there anything you want to let the listener know?
Yeah. Well, from my aspect, from the marketing and like what got me into Thunder Beast in the first place, my first like 2-day Pro Series event with the NRL before they became Hunter, you go to it and you see certificates on tables. Thunder Beast has sponsored shooting events since it began. You can't go to like a long-range precision match without us giving away half-off suppressors, free suppressors. Like we've been supporting everything for a long, long time.
Yep.
Which should alter the way you think. Like,
yeah,
for those shooting, like they've been supporting the sport, making this league be successful, and that's one of the big ones for me. And then probably the precision rifle side, just witnessing other suppressors and just how we do stuff. Like I'm 100% confident that we're not taking shortcuts or cutting corners. Like we want the perfect precision and concentric product that is going to go in your system, whether it keep the accuracy the same or make it better.
Yep.
And I just see that time and time again, so it's easy to get behind. But I mean, we do a lot for sponsorship for all the different shooting sports. I mean, foundations, we get, hey, we're trying to get money for officer so-and-so that was in this.
Oh, yeah.
And we get stuff for like nonprofits. Like we do stuff, a lot of that stuff.
It's easy to take care of people that take care of you, and we see that as well. Like when you're present in the sports that you're manufacturing products for, and not just the sports, but the whole community, like that should influence somebody's thought either about the company or their purchasing decisions. And why would I want to patronize a business that doesn't truly have the same values that I do?
Yep.
Yeah.
Like Phil Vallejo's one of your guys' sponsored shooters. He's a great friend of mine. And he had the fire, and I did that whole fundraiser for him, which the owners were all about. Like, I was just going to kind of do it on the side. Like, no, do it. This is part of work. This will be, good to help him out. Like, we're always doing stuff like that to kind of help the community.
Really cool.
Yeah, Razak and Shane like to think about like, we could spend this much money on marketing ads and paid influencers and magazines and all that stuff, and they look at that dollar amount and they're like, we'd rather just give away that same dollar amount in product.
Yeah.
Like that, and they do every single time.
Yeah, it's been that way for.
It's obviously worked because you guys sell every suppressor you've ever made.
Yep.
And
So for me, I would say Thunder Beast didn't necessarily want to start with this, and we didn't coin this phrase. This was kind of put up on us, that Thunder Beast is the Ferrari of suppressors. And now that we have that, I think the company is like, we want to instill that and own that, right? Like if you buy a product from us, we want you to think like, I bought a finished high-end can that's going to perform, right? And not just perform in some aspects, but it's going to perform in every aspect. And it's going to be a product that's never going to let you down because we are building these for ourselves, right? And I will not make a product that I personally would not use, right? And I think that comes back to if you're looking at a suppressor company, right, or any company within the gun industry, if the people that are not necessarily even own the company, but the people that are high up in the company, if they're not actively using the products that they're selling, that would make me question whether I would want to purchase that product.
Yep.
Because that disconnect from the product happens very quickly.
Yep. Yeah, that's awesome. I have one more question for you guys before we wrap this thing up. You guys probably know what's coming because hopefully you've watched the show, but we have to ask, the listener needs to know, if you had to pick one cartridge for all of your hunting and shooting the rest of your life, infinite ammo, mind you, in this hypothetical, you could have all the ammo in the world, and an infinite number of firearms, but they all need to be chambered in one cartridge. What would you pick? Tough question.
So for matches and hunting,
Oh, yeah.
I get one.
And personal
Everything.
defense,
That-
Lincoln,
This is silly because it should just be 270, right?
of course. Yeah.
Is there
I
any
was
other
gonna
cartridge?
I was gonna say 270. Dang it.
Yeah.
Mine's 308.
Yeah. That's been a popular answer
Gas
on the
gun,
show.
bolt gun, really. I mean, 6.5 is the same thing. I just don't have any 6.5 experience in like an AR-10 platform.
Yeah.
But 308 I do.
Sure.
And that thing has just been tried and true. I've killed antelope with it.
A lot of elk fall to the hand every year to a 308 Winchester.
It's even whether it's factory or hand-loaded ammo, like it's really easy to load. If I had to choose, like, and it was infinite, like I can always shoot that.
Yep.
And feel pretty confident.
That's not a bad answer. Preston actually here, his first answer was 308 Winchester. 6.5 Creedmoor, 6.5 PRC, pretty popular. No 270s.
I was going to say 6.5 Creed for me.
6 ARC was a big popular one too.
I'm biased.
Yeah, but you're a Nancy and don't like recoil.
This is true. Which, can I bring up one more topic before
Please
we
do.
end it? Which to me I think might be one of the most important, because we were talking about this yesterday. So I am a Nancy, and I've been hit in the head a few times in my life and have some medical stuff, but my ability to withstand muzzle blast is noticeably gone down over the years. Even when you and I were working together, do you remember me putting up like 2-inch rubber blocks to put a 16-inch 308 through just so I could shoot a test without and be able to try to function yesterday?
Or I remember shooting full days of radar, driving home, and your taste and color in the passenger seat.
100%.
Yeah.
And Kurtis has some really cool background in that with what you did in school. And then, Sam, you being a tanker, we were talking about, 3 of us here are veterans that, you get hit in the head and you experience blast. And
the sound is one thing, but the shockwave doesn't really care about your hearing protection.
Or your skull.
Yeah.
Or your skull.
Yeah.
And you asked about their contribution to the community. And to me, that's one of the biggest ones, because if it wasn't for good suppressors, I wouldn't be shooting anymore.
No.
And that's been my lifelong love and passion, is ballistics and shooting and all that stuff. And literally, I would not shoot anymore if it wasn't for cans.
To drive that point home a little bit, and obviously we're joking calling him a Nancy or Sally or fill in the blank, but it is not a conscious decision of, I'm hurting and that's too much blast, I have to quit. You have no control over the symptoms that happen based on the recoil. Like, it's not just whatever. There are physiological things that take place.
I can't muscle through it.
No,
there's a lot of things in life that I can
choice.
just knuckle down and push through. Right?
Yeah,
and suck it up. And that's not one of them.
And me throwing a jab at Jayden was not intended to be that way. Not at all. Because
let's throw more jabs at Jayden.
Let's throw all the jabs at Jayden. And, I did do, like, CTE, mild traumatic brain injury research at the University of Nebraska. Like, it was a phenomenal learning experience. But what was cool is, I had my own little sliver of research, which if you, I don't know, at some point the military said, hey, here's your helmet pads. You can put them in this box, right, within the helmet. That was me. I did that research. I said, here's the optimal gap space, because if you get hit head on with a pressure wave, it's here. You want to minimize how much goes into the helmet versus how much hits your face, right? Because this is a direct line into your brain, right? Soft tissue. But I had that aspect of it. I also did a lot of underbody blast, right? So like a mine going off underneath the vehicle, what happens to the occupants in the seat, right? But because there are only 3 or 4 of us that could operate the equipment, I got to perform the experimentation for the entire university group. So I got to do the fun part, right? Design the experiment, do the experiment, see the rough data, and then hand it off to somebody to go do write the research papers.
Wow.
And it's cool now because, like, right now there's some protein marker stuff that's happening in the military where they're giving them a protein marker and then seeing, hey, you've been subjected to X number of mortar fires or all that stuff. I participated in the original research to help develop those on the experimental side.
How cool is that?
UPenn started 15 years ago, and the experimentation to see if it would actually start to work on the protein markers was done at the University of Nebraska. So, it's cool now how long it takes, but it's cool to see that transition.
Yeah.
And also
that people are taking it serious. That's
it
probably
is a serious, and it is you have no control over what happens after the fact. And the unfortunate reality of it is every time you get a CTE or every time you get a mild traumatic brain injury, the next injury threshold lowers.
Yeah.
Right? So the more subjected, and we talked about this, if I'm around a brake shooter for a day, I am not functional the next day.
No,
because
I've mentally incapacitated to a degree.
Yes.
Yes.
Right? like I was not doing real good about having ear pro on, and I had a motorcycle accident, so I'm kind of messed up, and I am a hurting unit today in a combination of between having a broken leg and being around a bunch of like unsuppressed fire yesterday and not doing my due diligence to get out of the way.
Yep.
So I'm feeling it right now, and I'm sure I don't look pretty, but I definitely don't look pretty today.
Got hell of a mustache.
Yeah, that mustache takes care of
The
it. Don't worry
mustache
about it.
distracts it. But yeah, so like, and I would say protect yourself, right? And don't be macho about it. If you shoot and the next day you feel foggy and you don't feel good, look at what you shot the day before and consider it. And the unfortunate reality is, obviously I want you to buy a Thunder Beast can, but if you can afford a suppressor, please buy one, right?
Yep.
Your health, like 20 years from now will thank you for shooting suppressed.
Our kids today, when they're our age, will be better because of it.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. It is a real thing, and it is a real injury threshold, and it is a cumulative effect. The same thing with, I encourage everyone, even if you're shooting suppressed, to still wear ear protection, because it is a cumulative thing.
It's gone when it's gone.
When it's gone, it's gone. And you don't know it's gone until after it's gone, right?
Yep.
So like you could be subjected to 100,000 rounds of 22 suppressed, and if you're not wearing ear pro, you could still get hearing damage, right? So please still wear at least foam earplugs even when you're shooting suppressed. And now with suppressor designs getting so good to where they're blast mitigation, recoil reduction, flash reduction, they're doing more than just sound reduction. They're making the overall shooting experience better.
Yep.
Fantastic.
So yeah, then you don't. Yeah, thinking about your health when you're going to shoot a match, but also like ROs, I would feel bad.
Oh yeah.
If I went and ran a break, like, man, they're gonna have to deal with this whole squad of breaks. Like that sucks.
Yeah. So
And he can't distance himself. He has to sit where he is to be able to see those targets.
You've shot the Medicine Bow match, right, in
Yeah.
Kansas? So there's
Medicine Lodge.
Medicine Lodge. Not Medicine Bow, Nebraska. Medicine
I've been
Lodge,
there,
Kansas.
too.
Yeah. Yep. Cool little town. I like both. But there's an RO, and he always brings his two daughters, and his daughter's RO. And now shooting it multiple times, like gotten to know them a little bit, they're great. But the daughters, it's awesome to see two high school girls completely take control of an entire squad of dudes.
Yep.
Like shooting, right? And just like absolutely just slap them around. It's hilarious. But at the same time, like for the kids, right? They're doing the suppressed only match, thank God, because the younger kids, right? Like 21 and under are more susceptible to CTE because the brain is still in development.
Wow.
So especially if you're shooting around your kids, please make sure they're wearing ear pro. Just put a suppressor on it. Still put it on double ears, right? Like, I've got a 2 and a 6-year-old. If I shoot with the 6-year-old, even suppressed 22, she has full ear pro on, just because that brain is still developing all the way through 21 years old. So
yeah, think about your health, of course. And in terms of performance, the people that are winning, if you pay attention, people that are good shooters that are running a can, they're still going to win.
Yeah, because there's a perception that the reduction of recoil from the muzzle brake is a performance advantage, right? You can see what's happening.
It is. Like, it doesn't move in a lot.
Yeah,
right?
But if you're in the bottom third of the top half,
No.
it's not going to take you to the
This
top.
is a lie. Jayden told me if I bought 138 A-tips that I would win matches.
And you have all of them, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. But you're exactly right, Sam. Like, that's the old adage, like, well, I'm not going to shoot suppressed because I need the recoil reduction of a full optimized muzzle brake only to be able to perform well. And you're seeing that that's not true, because the guys that are winning matches are shooting suppressed as well.
So if that's the case, buy an RR. The RR cans, I see every shot of every match.
Yeah.
Across the board.
Yeah.
I'm
you
getting
can have your cake and eat it.
I'm getting the full benefit of a muzzle brake, and it's still suppressed.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
groovy.
Yep.
With that, guys, through at Winchester, 6.5 Creedmoor or 6.5 PRC?
6.5 Creed.
Okay. Just had to get that out there.
Yeah.
6.5 Creed has been the overwhelming.
I almost said
answer.
7 mag just because I have such a love affair with 7 mag.
Yep.
Because I've
Great
shot so many animals with it, and 7 mag, 7 PRC are the same to me.
Yep.
Just the 7 PRC is better because it's a modernized version of it. More so that the chamber specs now are correct.
Yep.
But my 7 rim mag has a matched chamber spec shot in it, so I kind of got.
So it's not really a 7 mag.
No, it's not really a 7 mag, but like.
I bet your ammo's not at 59,000 pounds either, which is the odd pressure spec. I always thought that was weird.
It is a
7
weird
mag,
one.
yeah.
It is a really weird one. No, it's definitely not. It's definitely higher.
Yeah. I love it, guys. Well, I appreciate you coming out here. Obviously, the point of your trip wasn't the podcast, but I thank you guys for squeezing it in, for what you guys do for not just Thunder Beast, but for the industry as a whole. Jayden, thanks for being in the corner.
Yes, sir.
Jay Quinlan in the corner. All right, guys, with nothing else to say, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in to this episode with Thunder Beast Arms Corps. And these guys, proud American manufacturers that really embody precision and sound suppression, repeatability, everything you want in a suppressor. Be sure to go check those guys out. Also, take a look at the Barrel Burner app to keep track of everything you got going on as a precision rifleman. We appreciate you listening. We'll catch you on the next one.